Good morning, everybody. Morning. Um, Thank you so much for joining the Hobbs Center for Professional Development here at St. Joseph's University today for What Women Want. I'm really happy to see so many friendly faces in the audience and much better weather than March. So thank you for coming back. Um, Programs like this don't happen without the hard work of a lot of people, and I want to make sure to thank my team at the Center for Professional Development, especially Christy Taverno, who's probably out there directing traffic right now. And I'd also like to thank all of our incredible speakers and panelists and workshop leaders who are here to share their knowledge and their wisdom with us today. And of course, our generous sponsors, organizations that understand how critical it is to support and nurture individuals, providing a forum such as this for personal growth and professional development. Many months ago, I was sitting with a group of women, smart women, women who inspire me, women I admire, and we were discussing what this event could be. And the conversation started with us talking about what we thought people might want, and we were talking about what other people would find interesting. The conversation kind of quickly turned, as we got more honest with ourselves, to what we felt we needed, what was missing and why did, and the word that kept coming up over and over again was stuck. And why did we feel stuck, or why did we feel pulled in too many directions at once? And why do we keep making the same choices over and over again when the outcomes of those decisions weren't serving us any longer? So, what would it take for me to have a breakthrough in my own life? And what am I missing? And that was the beginning of the journey that has led us all here today. And I'm really just ridiculously excited that so many of you have chosen to travel down this path together. And I'm grateful for everyone who's helped make this event happen and shared their time and their experience. Seriously, I'm really just thrilled that you're all here. So hopefully you picked up a yellow program. Inside you'll find today's agenda and more information about all the people that you'll have the opportunity to learn from today. I know each one of you, myself, each one of us, we're unique and our journey is unique. It's all our own. So when we were thinking about who should be part of this program, we really wanted to give people a lot of choices and a lot of chances to hear various viewpoints. So hopefully that will enable you to get the support you need to take the next steps in your life. And also, I'd like to remind everybody that you're sitting with a great group of people. So I hope that you take the time to introduce yourself to your neighbor and meet new people and make new friends and chat and, like-minded folks here. So I got to meet a lot of new people when I was working on this event, and I'm excited to introduce one of them now. Rhonda Kavanaugh, the inclusions lead at Wawa, has been a great supporter of What Women Want right from the beginning. And actually, Wawa was our first sponsor to say yes. Rhonda personally helped me coordinate a lot of moving pieces, and always with grace and laughter. And you've been a pleasure to work with. So I'm very excited to ask Rhonda to come up here and tell us more about Wawa's commitment to its people. So Rhonda, come on up.
Thank you, Maura. I just told her she gave me a little too much credit because I really don't think I did anything to plan this. If anything, I may have caused more trouble. So thank you for your dedication to planning this. So good morning, everybody. Since I've been working with Maura, my title has changed. I'm the Diversity and Inclusion Specialist, forgot to tell you. Same job, different title. I'm honored to be here representing Wawa and the great partnership that we have with St. Joe's University. At Wawa, we have 6 core values that guide our decision making and our purpose to fulfill lives every day. The 6 values are do things right, do the right thing, embrace change, delight customers, passion for winning, and my favorite, valuing people. Not only do we aim to fulfill the lives of our customers every day, but we also do the same for our 29,000 plus associates. Without being inclusive of the diversity of our associates and our customers, we would not be as successful as we are. One critical program that we have at Wawa to help our inclusion initiatives are our employee resource groups. We have groups that are focused on veterans, the LGBT community, young professionals, ethnic minorities, and women, led by some attendees that are here with us today. The most impactful thing that I've learned throughout my journey with diversity is that without education, awareness, and most importantly, our allies, we will make little progress. Leadership events like the one you're attending today are crucial to moving forward with our diversity and inclusion goals. Our Wawa Women's Networks Group's mission is to inspire and empower women. St. Joseph's put together a great program today that I promise will inspire and empower both women and their allies. Thank you.
When Rhonda asked me what she should say, I said, anything you want as long as you don't drop an F-bomb. So she was just like, I didn't do it. I might, so I apologize. No, terrible. So thank you, Rhonda. And again, many thanks to Wawa and to the rest of our sponsors for making today possible. I'd like to thank Ron Dandria and Dandria Produce, Giant, Post, Brown ShopRite, Nestle, Coca-Cola, Steez, and King Supermarkets. We're very grateful for all of your support. Now, let's get the day started with our opening speaker, Jen Groover. I first met Jen 4 years ago. She was speaking on a panel about entrepreneurship, communication, marketing, branding, and I was really struck by her authenticity, and I guess the only word for it is her personal power. When she spoke about her life, it was a little complicated and it was a little messy, and I could really relate because that sounded a lot like my life too. But Jen found her aha moment and she broke through and found her way to success. And I hadn't gotten quite that far yet, but she made it seem possible. And when she spoke about her journey, I felt empowered. So I knew when we started this planning process, I had to invite Jen to speak and that I wanted her to inspire you the way she inspired me. Yes, Success Magazine tagged her as a one-woman brand and a creativity and innovation guru. And yes, Entrepreneur Magazine says she's a leading serial entrepreneur. And she made history at the New York Stock Exchange as a member of the first all-female group to ring the opening bell, representing a women's leadership and economic independence. She was recently nominated as a UN delegate to the first ever Global Accelerator for Global Entrepreneurs. Her first book, What If and Why Not? How to Transform Your Fears into Action and Start the Business of Your Dreams, is about personal growth, about always pushing yourself to take your vision further. And I'm excited to hear that she has 2 more books coming out this fall, and I personally can't wait. Jen Groover is a serial entrepreneur who's gone from guest hosting spots on QVC to inking deals with some of the industry's biggest heavyweights. Her success began with the creation of the Butler bag, the world's first compartmentalized handbag, and has evolved into an entire lifestyle brand. She's also behind Leader Girls, which teaches young girls the importance of empowerment through play, and recently launched Empowered by Jen Groover, which includes her 90-minute PBS special and forthcoming books, and encompasses kind of her quotes and inspiration about people who live life with passion and purpose. Jen's passion to inspire others to realize their greatest potential is why I really wanted her to be here today. That's what she does for me. She's courageous in a way that makes me believe that I can have that kind of courage too. She's generous with her time and her expertise, and she moves through the world with this grace and generosity, and she's always looking for ways to help people. Jen believes in active participation and lives by the belief that if you're going to complain about something, you better be willing to inspire change. And that's why I'm just thrilled to be able to introduce her today. So please welcome Jen Groover to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, please. Morning, everyone. How's everyone feeling? I'm going to come down there with you soon, but I want to start this day off with a little video to really engage what this whole theme is today, is what women want. And as I thought about it when Mara asked me to be a part of it, I was very excited. And I also thought, wow, what do women want? It keeps changing so quickly. And so I have a presentation today on a topic of emotional intelligence, which is my number one topic to talk about because it's something I believe changes the world. I've watched it transform tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that I've personally worked with, that I've taught. And I've seen them change into a way, actually transform into a way that has made them live to their potential and fulfilled their passion and increased their ability to live in a place of inner happiness, not just within themselves, but in the world that they live in their homes and in their communities. But first, I want to start off with this video to really lead into the rest of today's conversation.
Well, 1. Take a shower. You don't want to smell. 2. Pick out an outfit that will fit in with the latest trends and won't make you the laughingstock of the school more than you already are. 3. Put on some makeup so you can actually show your face in public and be a little bit pretty. You can't even recognize yourself and your face tingles with an unrelievable itch you can't satisfy, otherwise you will have ruined the hours of meticulous painting you applied to your hideous face. 4. Don't forget to style your hair in elegant curls. You can't let everyone at school see how your hair frizzes up like an electrocuted monkey, naturally. 5. Shove your fat feet into those toe-pinching, blood-blistering Converse that everyone at school is wearing, and you cannot be the odd one out. As you gaze into the bathroom mirror, you see a stranger that somehow stole your reflection and replaced it with a completely different girl. Every part of your outfit is uncomfortable, but even though you spend hours trying to look pretty, you will never be as good as those other girls at school. You are actually holding back a few tears, but you feel like you are holding back a tsunami of emotion. You can't let anyone else know that you feel, otherwise they will never respect you the same way they used to. Or did they ever? Why am I not good enough? Beauty is pain. 6. Get off the bus. 7. Find a group of people you can walk to class with because heaven knows you can't just walk alone. But you don't even like these people. They cuss and they make dirty jokes a lot, and they laugh and make fun of you. You know you shouldn't hang out with them. But hey, they are the popular kids, and you just want people to like you like they like them. You are in the stocks as people throw judging tomatoes and hating heads of lettuce at your insecure little head. You cannot stand up for yourself because you are alone, trapped, and defenseless. And you cannot stand up for yourself because these popular kids are like the royalty of the school, and apparently what they say and do goes. You take each comment, each judgment, each assumption, each opinion, each strange look, each remark, each criticism, each review, each report, each assessment, and with it, your self-esteem plummets like a sinking ship. Down, down, down into the dark and dreary depths below. You look at all of the other girls, your mind racing a mile a minute. I wish I had her eyes. I wish I had her hair. I wish I was as skinny as her. I wish I had her perfectly straight white teeth. I wish that I had her social confidence. I wish as many boys liked me as they liked her. Why am I not good enough? Life isn't fair. 8. Get your work done. The only part of your life that seems solvable is the actual schoolwork. You take pride in your work because it is possibly the only thing special about you. You do it to see the radiant smiles on your teachers' faces as they applaud your work. Their joyful praise is the gentle rain that brings forth a magnificent rainbow, the radiant sunshine that brings forth fields of sweet daisies, one of the only things that brings you happiness. But it is not popular to be smart. In fact, you are seen as a nerd, too smart, human calculator, brainiac, geek, teacher's pet, suck up, whatever wonderful name you can think of. Your peers' jealousy is the pollution that prevents a rainbow, the bulldozer that plows through the fields of once golden daisies, the intangible object that crushes your happiness like a bug. A's are getting you nothing but torment. Why am I not good enough? Just get over it. 9, it's the end of the day, get ready for bed. 10, undress, get your pajamas on. Wow, did I get fatter today? 11, undo your hair. Wow, my hair looks like a mop. 12, wash off all of your makeup. I can't even look at myself. This is my life every day. I can't control it. I've been told I can't compare apples and oranges. I've been told I'm distorted. I've been told I have to be grateful for who I am. But going through your middle school years, you are on your own journey to find yourself on a small jet. And sometimes you cannot control what happens to you. The turbulence will throw you off course. But popular isn't always a good thing. You tell yourself, I just want people to like me. I just want to be accepted. But skipping meals and marking up your wrist isn't going to fix that. You look at other girls wishing you were them, but other girls are looking at you wishing they were you. Society infers girls have to have skinny waists, tan skin, long silky hair, perfectly straight teeth, big butts, and etc. Society infers girls have to wear tons of makeup to be pretty. Society infers girls have to wear skanky clothing and do inappropriate things with boys to be happy and considered cool. But society is wrong. You are loved, you are precious, you are beautiful, you are talented, you are capable, you are deserving of respect, you can eat that meal, you are 1 in 7 billion. And most of all, you are good enough.
I see the world.
So, how does everybody feel watching that? Powerful, right? As a mother of seventh grade twins, girls, it's so hard for me to watch that. I literally fight back tears. Not just because of them, but because I know that that's probably been just about every woman sitting in this room at one point in their life. And when I go to another event this weekend, it will be just about every other woman that's sitting in that room. And it continues on. And so what do women want? I believe what women want is to end that cycle. And the cycle of pain, jealousy, judgment, and the cycle of the belief systems that we're not good enough, and the cycles of not feeling valuable enough, and the cycle of thinking that being smart isn't cool, and the cycle of jealousy, and collectively come together to break the cycles so that we can empower future generations to not feel that pain, the pain and suffering that is not even worthwhile in the sense that it's self-created. We've allowed it to perpetuate. But collectively, we can stand together and not tolerate it any longer. We can change what the belief system is. When my 7th grade daughters come home and say, Mom, I can't do that because that's not cool, I say to them, according to who? Who created the rule of cool? And why can't you create a new rule of cool? But it takes others to stand in that same place to break those cycles. And I believe that it begins with this, emotional intelligence. I believe it begins with becoming more self-aware. I believe it begins with becoming more convicted in who we are, loving who we are, and knowing that we are enough and we're valuable enough. And put our passions and talents into the world and know that our uniqueness is our power. But often we can't do that because starting at about that age, we start to become what everyone else wants. We start to do what everyone else thinks is cool, and we lose who we are completely. And we become an adult, and we feel, as Maura said, stuck. Can anyone guess why most people are stuck? Because they start to realize they're no longer who they are. They've completely lost their own personal identity, their own authenticity, their own personal power. Because for so long they pretended to be something that everyone else wanted them to be, or what they at least thought everyone else wanted them to be, that they no longer were in tune and in alignment with what they're here for, what their passion is, what their purpose is. Because for so long, they pretended their passion and purpose was what everybody else's was. And the faster we can get back to our own authentic state, the faster we can step into our own personal power, the faster we can tap into our own passion and live our purpose, which will create a greater impact in our society, which will allow us to innovate and make change. Because if everyone's doing the same thing, guess what we're getting? The same results over and over again, generation after generation. So what is emotional intelligence and why is it important? And that's what I would like to share with you today. And I would love for you to walk away today with a greater sense of who you are and why you're here, with a greater sense of how you can make an impact in your home and in your business and in your community, and take some of these messages forward. Emotional intelligence, I believe, is the key to happiness, the key to success, the key to fulfillment, and the key to changing our entire state of our world. So what is emotional intelligence? In my definition, emotional intelligence is a greater sense of self-awareness, and is also a greater sense of awareness of others. It's a heightened sense of self in everything that we do, in every action that we have, every word that we speak, every choice that we make, and we have the power to do that. I joke around with all of my students that emotional intelligence teaches you how to be Yoda of your own life and a Jedi to everybody else's. That's powerful, right? How fun. But it is that powerful. I promise you it is. And it's why I've become such an evangelist of this. I have all these other businesses basically to prove these theories and to control my ADD. But once we learn these principles, everything else in life is so much easier. I don't believe life has to be so hard, but we've brought into the belief system that it does, but it doesn't need to be. If I could teach you how to make your life easier and more harmonious and happy, would you sign up for that? You did. You're here today, which I'm grateful for. If I could teach you how to be more successful with working smarter, not harder, would you sign up for that? If I could teach you to have harmony in all of your relationships and increase your health by the harmony of every other aspect of your life, would you sign up for that? So those are the things I'm going to teach you today. Emotional intelligence by Harvard Business Review was tagged as the essential ingredient to success. Now, I had been talking about emotional intelligence for a really long time because I believed in it for the purpose of happiness. And yes, it contributes to success. But it was finally when this hit the front cover that people started saying, teach us about that emotional intelligence stuff. And I said, why does it have to be masked as an equivalent to success for us to pay attention? Instead of, why can't we say, this is the key ingredient to happiness? Okay, great. Let's all learn it. Because what's the one thing we all have in common? Every single one of us have one thing in common. The desire to be happy, which starts with the desire to be loved. Can't talk about that much in conference rooms, right? The desire to be loved is the one essential thing that we all have in common. So why do we ignore it? Our desire to be accepted, just like that little girl said. Our desire to not be abandoned or rejected, to be loved, to be happy. So what if we were focusing on the wrong thing the whole time? We're in this pursuit of success, where actually, if we had our pursuit of happiness, it leads us to success. In a pursuit of happiness, then we actually find inner peace, harmony in our relationships, thriving health. But we're told, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and then you'll be happy. How many of you have bought into that belief system? And then you get there and you're like, wait, I have this really great job and I just work 60 hours a week every week, and now I have this 401k and I have all these things, and why am I not happy? Because in our pursuit of success and in a pursuit of getting a good job and getting this next raise and promotion, we forgot about our relationships. We forgot about our health. What if I changed the whole philosophy and I told you, how about when you go to school, learn how to connect with people, learn how to communicate with people, learn about what other people are passionate about, and most importantly, learn about what you're passionate and happy about. And focus on your relationships your entire life and understand that your net worth is your network, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and financially. And when you focus on your relationships, you will thrive to become successful. Does that sound a little bit more in harmony with what we really desire as human beings? So why is emotional intelligence so important? Because it affects every single aspect of our lives, our health, our relationships, our finances, and our own evolution. So why is it so important to me? Or where did it become so important to me? When I was growing up, I lived in a very volatile childhood. Mara made reference to that. There was a lot of physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. And when someone endures that in their life, they have scars, they have pain. Every single one of us has something. Every single one of us has flaws. Every single one of us has something that's caused pain in our life. And so as we get older, we keep trying to mask the pain. And for me, living that type of childhood and watching the things that I'd witnessed and living through them, I went to college and I knew there had to be a different way. I knew there had to be a better way at life. And I studied psychology, as most people do that have messed up childhoods, trying to make sense of it all. And as I learned things in psychology around positive reinforcement, effective communication, empathy, compassion, understanding, I started to realize there's other ways of doing things. And what I had lived through is not the way that I want to live my future. It's not how I want to raise my children if I ever have them. And as I'm learning these things, I'm sitting there thinking, why isn't everybody mandated to be in this classroom? Everybody should be learning these skills. These are people skills. When I was in college, my dad would say, what are you going to do with that degree in psychology? I'd say, I don't know, Dad, everything. It's a study of human behavior. It's a study of people. And that's what this world is about, people. And somehow we forgot about that. And I thought every person that wants to be a leader, a teacher, a parent, a coach has to be in this room right now. Why isn't this mandatory? Why are all these other subjects mandatory and this is not? It's actually criminal. When I talk to college students or high school students and they say, I don't know what I do, I say, whatever you do, study psychology. Even if it's a minor, study it. Because that's where you're going to make the foundation of all the other things to become successful. Nothing in our lives is exclusive. Everything in your life is connected. I want you to think about this for a second. Haven't we been taught to compartmentalize our lives? This is our work life, and this is our personal life. So let me ask you a question. How many of you, when you have something going on negatively in your personal life, thrive at your work life? Unless you're a robot, it really is hard to happen. How many of you that are having something negative going on at work come home happy every day? Yes, I had the best day at work ever. And are fully present with your family. So is that really possible to compartmentalize things? It's really not. Psychologically, we might be able to do it for a short period of time, but eventually it falls apart and combusts. You can't separate these things in your life. Your health, your finances, your personal growth, your relationships, they're all connected. So if one of these things are suffering, everything else is going to suffer. But can any of you guess what pillar you should focus on first and foremost? Anyone guess? What'd you say, Jill? Yeah, your health. your health, self, and your relationships. Because when your relationships are out of order, so is your health. They're interconnected. Stress is a killer, right? So if we're not focusing on the things that are stressing us, then all the other things start to fall apart. So in my belief system, you can't teach someone to be more successful until you teach them these fundamental skills of emotional intelligence. But most people want to skip over this. A lot of people will come to me in business and say, no, Jen, I just want to figure out how to get my product to market. And I said, well, I'm not going to teach you how to get your product to market till I can teach you to be the best version of yourself. So when you get your product to market, you actually can thrive through adversity. Doesn't that make more sense? Or no, Jen, I just want to learn how to get my product on television. I just want to be a contributor. Well, I'm not going to teach you how to get on television until I teach you how to become the best version of yourself. So when you get there 4 minutes to actually shine, you utilize the 4 minutes to shine, so you're invited back. Doesn't that make more sense? So we're not being taught to be the best version of ourselves first, then everything else is like a house of cards ready to fall apart. As a mother of seventh graders, 13-year-old twins, I want my kids to be learning this stuff in school. All the other stuff is secondary. All the other stuff is easy. Once you master yourself, you master everything else. Once you master yourself, you master life. All the other stuff is just technical skills that they can totally learn very easily by watching a YouTube video these days. Right? Coding. They learn how to code by watching YouTube videos right now. They learn how to do the most masterful braids in the world by YouTube videos. They learn how to take a product and create an Instagram store by watching a video. All of those things can be taught by a video now. But learning to be the best version of yourself, that's when you master everything else. Because when adversity comes, in which it always was, you can handle it differently. You can process it differently. And when things happen that aren't ideal, you can get through them faster. When failure, quote unquote, failure arises, you can look at it and say, that's not failure. That's just an opportunity to learn and grow. That's my opportunity to gain some wisdom. See how different the perspective is? Because when you master yourself, you master your thought process. When you master your thought process, you master your perspective. When you master your perspective, you see everything as an opportunity to learn and grow. You are never a victim again, and you are fully empowered to live the life that you choose to live. You create and design your own life. Does that sound ideal? Does that sound like success and happiness? That's what we've been missing, all of that. So I believe that the first thing that people need to learn to become optimally successful, to optimize their potential, is the fundamental skills of emotional intelligence. And the most successful people in the world that I know work on themselves first, every single day. The first thing they do, or one of the first things they do, is they invest in their personal development, their psychology, their understanding of themselves. That's the first thing they do every day. Why? Because when you set a personal mindset in a positive frame, then the things that come at you during the day no longer seem so challenging, right? If I start my day and I say, I'm going to have the worst day ever, what's going to happen to my day? I'm probably going to attract the worst things. And even if they're not the worst things, I'm going to make them the worst things because of my perspective. But what happens if I start and I say, I can do this. I'm empowered. I'm going to have the best day ever. Even when adversity comes, what happens? I step right over it and say, take that adversity. Because I have a more positive mindset. I have a better ability to cope and process. And I want to clarify too, that when I use the word success throughout the rest of this presentation, I don't just mean money in a bank account or a title. I mean people who wake up every single day living intentionally to be the best version of themselves, feeling fulfilled in what they're doing, passionate about their lives, and passionate about all of their relationships. That to me is success. How many are living at that level at this very moment? How many of you believe it's possible to live at that level in every moment? Because it is. So as I said earlier, when you master yourself, you'll master your life. A lot of people ask me, beyond this lecture, Jen, what can I start to do? What can I read? What's the first thing I can read? And there's a book that's called Lovability. And that's the first book I suggest for everyone to read. And they're like, wait, you said it's going to make me more successful. And I said, that's right. Even if you only right now care about the money in your bank account, read Lovability. That's the first book that you should read that will change the course of your life. I promise you. Because what was the common denominator that we all have in common that we always keep ignoring? The desire to be loved. And once we feel safe and loved, we feel fulfilled and happy. So once we maximize our own potential as leaders, we can magnify the potential in others. So I know most of you in this room are in a leadership position right now. And if you're not currently, it's something that you aspire for. And being a leader is living to your fullest potential. Being a leader is knowing how to not dictate leadership in other people, but to magnify the strength and power in other people. As a leader, I surround myself by people who are not like me on purpose, because I want people who are stronger than me in other aspects where I'm weak. But if I dictated to them to be like me, what am I going to get? A lot of gaps and holes in not getting a lot of work done. That's for sure. So the best leaders in the world learn how to maximize their potential to magnify the strengths in others. This starts in our homes, goes into our communities, goes into our offices, and then goes globally if we so desire. One of the most challenging experiences I've recently had in this lesson started with my daughters. Because as a parent, we somehow start to project that our child should be a lot like us, right? And I started to realize that my children are their own unique human beings. And we were at a Justin Bieber concert last year. And earlier on in my career, I was a Reebok dancer during the fitness movement. And I love dancing. I joke, my last name's Groover, so I wasn't sure if I needed to live up to the name or the name needed to live up to me, but either way. And I'm dancing and I'm having so much fun. I look at my daughters and they're just sitting there looking. And I'm like, girls, why aren't you having fun? They're like, we are, Mom. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not dancing. And they're like, we're okay. I go, but why aren't you dancing? And they go, my daughter Morgan looks at me. She goes, we don't need to dance to have fun, Mom. And I was like, what? Wait, I can't even comprehend that. What do you mean you don't need to dance to have fun? And it hit me that everything that I was teaching as a leader in business, I needed to bring into my home. Because I was projecting on them that their expression of fun needed to be like mine. That their expression of enjoying that time needed to be dancing. And the reality was they were having fun observing, watching, taking it all in. So the purpose, just to summarize before we move forward, emotional intelligence affects every aspect of our lives: professional, finances, health and wellness, relationships, personal development. Every choice you make, every action you have, every problem can be solved more effectively by increasing your emotional intelligence. EI is a heightened sense of self-awareness along with the awareness and understanding of others. So you can have a better understanding of the choices you make and identify what self-limiting beliefs and behaviors may be holding you back from achieving your goals. Remember, Maura earlier said when she was sitting talking with everybody and they're trying to figure out what the focus is, they kept saying, well, let's try and figure out a way to stop repeating the same mistakes and the same cycle so we can get different results. But the insanity is most people, the majority of their life, will repeat the same exact cycle and pattern their whole life, expecting a different result. The definition of insanity, right? So if we want different results, we need to start with getting clear in who we are and what we're doing to contribute to the results. And it begins by diving deep into what our belief systems are. Our belief systems then uncover our habits. We can't change our habits until we change our belief systems. How many of you have ever tried to go on a diet? How many of you said, this is it, this is the year, I'm doing it, this is it. I'm going to the gym 5 days a week, I'm going to eat really healthy. And then about 2 months later, max for most, we're right back to the same pattern. Does anyone know why that cycle continues? Because you've never ever changed the belief system around what got you there in the first place. So I'm going to give you an example. Something that I've worked with my clients with over the years. When they come and say, this is it, Jen, this is the year, I'm doing it. I'm done repeating the same cycle, I'm going to the gym. And I said, but what did you change about you to change your result? It's my commitment. Okay, I get that there's a commitment, but you have to change, you have to transform in order to get a sustained result. If not, it's just called willpower. How long does willpower work? Right? Willpower is short-term bursts of something. It's like, I'm going to lose weight to fit in that dress for the wedding. And then the wedding happens, and then poof, what happens? Right back to the same pattern. Because the pattern was never changed. And the pattern is not changed because the belief system is it. So I say to them, what's your vice? What vice is your food? Pizza. So is that the go-to thing every time you feel stressed out? Yep, pizza. Is that what you crave when you're bored? Yep, pizza. So let's go back a little bit further. In your childhood, when do you remember eating pizza the most? Well, when I was at my grandmom's house, I'd go every Friday night. We'd watch Lawrence Welk. Some people are like, what? What's Lawrence Welk? We'd eat pizza, and then I'd have ice cream. Oh, is that your other vice? Yes, I love ice cream. So how was everything else in your life at that time period? Kind of a mess. My parents were getting divorced, and Friday nights were my time to bond with my grandma. Did you feel safe there? Yep. That's where I felt really safe and loved, right? Yep. So do you see, emotional connection was created around safety and love while you're eating the pizza and the ice cream. So that is your trigger every time you feel stressed to go back to the pizza and the ice cream. Or at least things like it, similar textures, similar taste, similar salt or sweet. And the emotional connection was created that until it's actually broken and changed, will continue to be the same. You don't read that in diet articles, do you? No, because that would actually change the diet industry. Because when you teach something that powerful, it actually can transform their life. I was a sugar addict. When I say addict, a sugar addict. Like I would think, gosh, I wish there was AA for sugar addicts. Can anyone guess why I was a sugar addict? Comfort from my dysfunctional childhood. It was my drug. Sugar is a drug, by the way, for any of you who don't know. It's actually a drug that we put in our bodies consistently that actually changes our neuroscience of our brain on an ongoing basis. And so that was my drug that I ate all day, every day. And the more I ate it, the more I wanted it. But it wasn't actually the sugar. You realize that. It wasn't actually the sugar that I was seeking. It was the high from the sugar. It was the dopamine effect, how my brain changed. And so as I became an adult and I started my first business out of college, I was in the fitness industry. And I swear now looking back, knowing what I know, I consciously, subconsciously became a fitness competitor because when you say to someone you're a fitness competitor, what do? They look at you up and down. So I hoped that my vanity would override my addiction. And I struggled every day with that vanity overriding the addiction because I wasn't ever changing the problem, the root of the problem. The root still existed. I had an emotional connection with sugar that was so deep that anytime I felt stressed, anytime I felt unsafe, anytime I even felt bored, what did I want? Sugar. And it wasn't until I had my twins that I fully broke the addiction. And I changed the emotional connection. What happened was, I'd been so sleep deprived for about 2 years that I started to actually really value energy. You know, the thing that we in our 20s are like, yeah, I'll just sleep later. Well, at 31 and having newborn twins, I was exhausted. And about 2.5 years into it, when they started going to preschool part-time, I started to feel myself again. I was like, wow, I have energy back. I can actually think clearly for more than an hour at a time. It's amazing. Started to value my energy and sleep. And I went to my office one day and I'm checking off my checklist. I'm like, I'm back. I'm back in the zone. I feel great. You know that feeling where you're like, I'm just getting everything done. I feel amazing. And at lunchtime, I went to their school for a Halloween party. And I ate the icing off the cupcake because that's all I cared about was the icing on the cupcake. And I went back to my office. And within about 20 minutes of getting back there, I felt, can anyone guess? Exhausted, completely exhausted. I mentally was numb. I wanted to cancel all of my meetings. I didn't feel like speaking to any of my employees. And I felt like going under my desk and sleeping for a couple hours. And I thought to myself, that sugar stole my energy. It ruined my day. And in that very moment, I became angry, literally angry at the sugar. And what happened in that moment when I became angry at the sugar? Can anyone guess? I changed my emotional state and my emotional relationship with the sugar. And that is when the addiction stopped. Do you see how powerful that is? Do you see how much that can change someone's life? That knowledge, that understanding. But you have to have a greater sense of self. You have to understand patterns and triggers that lead you to a moment so that you can change it. But most people just keep doing it. Oh, I'm just going to go to the gym and I'm going to, but you know what actually got me here in the first place? Let me go backwards, reflect. This is where most people stop. They don't want to go back. They don't want to review. They don't want to see it because we were taught if you just shove something under a rug, it will go away. I promise you it never goes away. As a matter of fact, it keeps popping open. Just like a boat that has a hole, and then you plug the hole, and then it pops open somewhere else, and then you plug that hole, and the holes keep popping open. And that's what's called repeat cycles. That's what self-sabotaging cycles are. How many of you know people who have dated the same person over and over again, just a different name and a face? That's because they never changed or transformed who they were before they went into the next relationship. So they went in exactly as they were. How many of you see people who hop job to job to job? And always there's a problem with the job and the boss and everybody in their company. Does anyone know anyone like that? Any ideas why that's happening to that pattern? I say to my friends and peers that say that, oh, this place now is doing this and this. I said, did you ever notice there's a common denominator here? You might want to look at the common denominator. It's okay. We all have stuff. The problem is when you don't take advantage of looking at this stuff and saying, what am I doing to participate to the problem? What am I doing that's causing this repeat cycle? And how do I break the cycle? I don't know about you guys, but if I keep repeating cycles that are getting me results I don't want, I get aggravated. And then I start to look to my peers and I say, what am I not seeing? What am I missing? Obviously, something I'm doing to repeat this pattern and cycle. So the difference in emotional intelligence versus a lot of the personal development work you might have heard of before is going from motivation to transformation. We just talked about this. Motivation is like willpower. It's very short term. You can't motivate somebody to get you a goal or a desire for a long period of time. How many of you have ever tried to motivate your teams? And everyone's like, yes, this is it. We're going to get to that goal. But you never even asked them what their goal was. You never even asked them what inspired them, what drove them, what motivated them, right? So they might perform for you for a short period of time, but they'll always go back to their same pattern because you didn't actually get to the place of transformation. So as an amazing leader, you want to look at your team and say, what inspires you? What drives you? What are your fears? Because the fears were actually the things that are going to create the blocks, by the way. The fear of success for many people creates a repeating pattern cycle. The fear of getting too much power. By the way, speaking of self-worth in that video in the beginning and too much power and sitting in a conference called What Women Want. In 2006, when I launched the Butler Bag Company, I learned a statistic that probably changed the course of my life. The statistic was that less than 1% of the wealth in the United States of America was created by women. Less than 1%. By the way, that's not job cap, that's wealth creation, so that's female entrepreneurs. But the interesting statistic around that was, at that moment, women were creating businesses 2-to-1 to men and graduating equally from men from universities. That's interesting. Graduating equally from men, creating 2-to-1 more companies, yet creating less than 3% of the wealth. Less than 1% of the wealth. So why is that? My psychology degree kicks in. Why is that? Can anyone guess why that is? Part of it is women create their own companies so they can design their life to have a little better work-life balance. But there's a bigger part of this equation that we're missing. It's the old programming around women, money, power, success. When I meet a male entrepreneur and I say, oh, that's a great business, what are you doing with it? Oh, I want to get about $5 million in funding, and then I'm going to IPO it in the next few years. That's how they're thinking. If I ask a woman, oh, I hope to make $100,000 this year. It's very different mindset, right? So how do we change this? Here we are, 11 years later from that original statistic. Women are graduating more than men from universities. Women are starting 3-to-1 businesses to men and creating less than 3% of the wealth. Is there a disparity there? A significant disparity? So what do we have to change? Our belief systems around money, power, success, and wealth. The belief system that because we're successful doesn't mean that we're bad wives or bad mothers or bad partners or bad community service workers. It still exists. It came from that little girl. That video is brand new. Why am I not enough? Why am I not enough? If that programming starts that young, we're repeating it still in our 20s, 30s, 40s. We might have greater degrees, but we're still repeating that underlying question, why am I not enough? Do you know how many female entrepreneurs I know that don't ask for their value? They don't ask for their worth because they're afraid that if they ask for their worth, somebody's going to say no. Versus instead of saying, I'm going to ask for my worth, if they say no, then they weren't meant to be my client anyway. The mindset. We have to transform in order to change the results. We have to transform our belief systems around money, power, success in order to transform every other aspect of our lives. Emotional intelligence is about understanding intellect is not as powerful as wisdom. How many of you, bless you, how many of you went to school and regurgitated information and got really good grades because you could memorize things really well? Right? That's considered intellect in our society. But isn't wisdom more powerful when you take the information and turn it into wisdom? When you take information and you say, well, if this is so, then maybe this is possible. That's where innovation happens. That's where thought leadership happens. That's where transformation transpires. And one other big aspect as you learn emotional intelligence is it transforms the idea that you have to work really hard into working really smart. How many of you would rather work smart than really hard? I would. So when you're emotionally intelligent, you start to be more self-aware. You start to recognize your limiting beliefs. You start to recognize your self-sabotaging behaviors and patterns. You start to recognize the toxic people in your life and you let them go. And you start to create boundaries around things that waste your time and energy. And then you start to recognize that creativity is your unlimited capital, that your uniqueness is your power, that innovation is your ability to transform anything you want moving forward. And you start to recognize that your network is your net worth, and all those relationships that you nourished throughout your life have value. They're your greatest asset. Creativity, human capital come together, anything's possible. So emotional intelligence is the foundation of all success, happiness, prosperity, abundance. The benefits that we talked about today is that it decreases obesity, it decreases stress and anxiety, it decreases mental clutter, depression, drama, fighting and bullying, divorce, family separations, alcoholism, drug abuse, and all addictive behaviors. Is that a good line to decrease right there? They're all interconnected. Everything there is interconnected. When we can actually acknowledge that our physiological state supports our emotional state, then we can thrive to a higher level. How many of you, when you're hungry, are very patient? You might be really emotionally intelligent, but if you're hungry, you're not going to be able to optimize your physiological state to optimize your emotional state. If I forget to eat lunch and I go pick up my daughters and they get in the car and they're like, Mommy, asking me a million questions, I say, Mommy didn't get a chance to eat lunch yet. I promise you, if you wait until I'm done eating, my answers are going to be better than they will be right now. That's utilizing emotional intelligence. That's acknowledging my physiological state is not optimized to be the best version of myself, to give you the best version of myself. Does that make sense? If you're sleep deprived, are you mentally on top of your game? If you're dehydrated, are you mentally on top of your game? A lot of people don't realize how much dehydration really messes up their brain to be optimal. So if we're eating right, if we're sleeping right, if we're hydrating properly, we're creating an environment to optimize our emotional and mental state so that we can thrive to our greatest potential. Most people forget to learn that in school or teach that in school, right? I say to my first grade, why don't you teach kids how if they eat supports their brain and then teach them how their brain works and then shove all the information in it? Wouldn't that make more sense? If I knew how my brain worked earlier in life, I would have optimized it a lot better. By the way, neuroscience is more of an emerging science right now. It's fascinating to teach you the power of your brain and things that you might not have learned in school and tools so you can be more mentally sharp. More mentally sharp equals more productivity, less effort, right? Something in that work smarter, not harder. So the benefits then, it increases our health, wellness, productivity, innovation, finances and economy, happiness, life fulfillment, world peace, safety to learn and thrive, relationship satisfaction, and effective communication skills. Because we become more mindful. If everyone in this world's more mindful, do you think we'd be having all the craziness in our society that we have right now? No. Because instead of taking all this pain that's built up, that turns into anger, we'd be able to communicate with people more effectively. We'd be able to diffuse the anger differently. By the way, hurt people hurt people. Happy people don't hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. If anyone's mean, if anyone's rude, if anyone's a bully, it's because they're in pain. I taught that to my daughters early on. It's something I wish I had known early on in school. Because I said, when kids are mean to you at school, it's because they're in pain. So you either get to pick up the rock that they threw at you or leave it on the ground. But if you pick up that rock, you got to put it in your backpack and carry it around. And you'll keep picking up rocks and putting them in your backpack and carrying them around. And what happens to that backpack later in life? It's pretty heavy, huh? That's what most of us have done. We picked up other rocks people threw at us, put them in our backpack, and started carrying them around, and created belief systems about ourselves that weren't even ours. But there's a great secret to this to change all of that. Nothing has meaning until you give it meaning. Think about that for a second. That's a trippy one for a lot of people. Nothing has meaning until you give it meaning. So everything that's ever happened in your lifetime, you have the power to go back and rewrite your story with a different meaning. I had a dysfunctional childhood. I just kind of scratched the surface on for you all. I could be a victim to that childhood story, but I say that childhood was a training ground for my happiness and success. It gave me skill sets of resiliency, agility, the ability to handle adversity. I'm grateful for that childhood. Do you see how I wrote that story the way I wanted to? That's my story. Most of us are going through our lives with these stories that we're a victim to. But at any moment, in any time, you can decide to go back and rewrite that story differently. I had business partners that stole from me in a really gross way that really was very hurtful, could have sabotaged my company completely, caused a lot of stress and damage and things that I had to deal with in my life at that moment. So many people are like, why don't you sue them? You totally should sue them. And I said, absolutely not. Because I'm going to spend the next 3 to 5 years of my life looking backward, digging up anger, getting people to poke at that anger. But I believe I have enough talent and creativity and strength to go create again and go move forward. Because if I spend the next 3 to 5 years of my life looking backwards, I'm not moving forward. And I'm also going to probably age myself significantly. Because stress does that. Anger does that. Happiness, by the way, is the opposite, which is anti-aging. Happiness is anti-aging. The happier you become, the younger, more you physiologically, biologically can change how you look when you shed anger and move into a state of happiness. I promise you. Imagine if we all learned that when we were kids. We would have just stayed in that happy state, right? Botox wouldn't even exist. So we become more mindful, we become more aware of who we are, what we do. And these are some contributing factors that I want to round out with for you today. So when you're becoming more emotionally aware, these are the things to say, am I doing this in a way that's helping me or hindering me right now? So I mentioned health. So let's think about this for a second. When you're sick and you're laying on your couch and you're sniffly, are you optimized in your emotional intelligence? No. So is your health important as a contributing factor? Yes. So the more emotionally intelligent we become, the more we prioritize our health as something that's going to help us become happier and more successful. But we're not really taught that early in life. It's not until we're later in life and when we're having all these ailments that we're like, oh man, I wish I took care of myself better when I was in my teens and 20s, right? So making our health as a number one priority creates a foundation. Exercise. When you're exercising after you're done, do you feel emotionally up or down? Emotionally up. So use exercise as a fuel. For me, when I'm doing certain things with work, if I need to do a keynote, I didn't do it this morning because we had to be up too early, but if it was in the middle of the day, I would save some time to do at least a power walk before. Why? Because it uptakes the oxygen in my brain and it gets my endorphins going, so my energy's up. I don't need Red Bull. I have all these other techniques to use. By the way, oxygen to your brain is the fastest way to get your brain to function better. Do you know how to do it? Yawning. You already knew. Yawning is what we need to do it. And I know it's funny because in our society we've been taught yawning might be rude or a sign of being tired. Yawning is because your brain is asking for oxygen. But if you force yawn 10 times before you go into a meeting or do something where your brain needs to operate at a high level, you will then help up level your ability to thrive. So on the way to school, my daughters and I, before we get there, what do? 10 yawns before they get to school. People in our relationships, this could be a lecture in and of itself, but the health of your relationships is in direct proportion to your success and happiness. There are people in your life that you can't get rid of, certain family members or coworkers. So what do? You change your expectations. The number one thing that causes self-inflicted pain, in us is our expectations of others. Our expectations of people to think like us, be like us, act like us, respond like us. And they can't. They can't because they're not us. So to do that to another human being is actually manipulation, unless you've clarified the expectations. Most people are too afraid to clarify the expectations because they're afraid the other person will say, yeah, those expectations are not working for me. Well, then that's great. If they're not working for you, then you're not in alignment. And now you know to minimize your expectations. But instead, we have all these grand expectations of others we've never even communicated, and then someone doesn't meet them, and then we're mad at them. But they never said, sign me up for that. Or they would, if they knew, they'd say, don't sign me up for it. I can't do it. So our expectations of others is a thing that self-inflicts pain. Foods, we talked about, the foods that you eat. Sugar is one of the worst things in the world. I know it's something that exists and we're going to have it every once in a while, but I'm telling you right now, if you want to optimize your potential and performance, sugar should not be in your diet that day. Finding things like avocado or foods that help you thrive, give you extra energy, those are the go-to things when you need to perform. Thoughts, the thoughts you think, the words you choose. If you're thinking negative thoughts, you're attracting negative things. Negative people. By the way, the book, The Secret, how many of you have ever heard of it? So just so you know, that's not woo-woo crazy stuff out of the air. That's actually called quantum physics. It's quantum physics. It's real. We're energy and motion. So if you read it before and didn't get it and you want to go back, there's also a book called Infinite Potential by Lothar Schaefer that talks about quantum physics and applied potential for our success. Meditation, I couldn't do for so long, but it is one of the most powerful things to change your performance and your ability to stay emotionally stable. I use something called binaural beats. There's a website called binauralbrains.com, and I use the binaural beats because it changes the frequency of your brain, so it helps you get into a different state quickly. 20 minutes in the afternoon, first thing in the morning, at night. If I can only do it once a day, the afternoon's when I do it. Because when you're getting tired, that's the time to use it to up-level your brain. Alcohol and toxic substances, routine. If we're out of routine, don't we feel like all out of sorts? So routine helps us stay emotionally stable. TV, if you're watching negative things on TV, I hate to break it to you, it does negatively, in fact, impact your emotional state. So pick and choose wisely of what you're watching in your eyes because it does become part of who you are and what's happening in your emotional state. Same with music, what you read, the weather, obviously, like tomorrow is going to be so much more of an energy day for us, right? Correct. Right. True story. And love and security. And love and security helps us thrive. And when we can create harmonious relationships, we can thrive a lot more because we feel safe to go to the next level. I'm just going to put this up here so you can take a screenshot of it just to kind of reflect on everything that we just learned. So that you can use it to go back to some of the mental notes. But as we master our emotional intelligence, we increase our self-awareness to a level in which we can intentionally create a consistent high-frequency state. Your frequency is your priority. Frequency, that's your energy level, is your priority. We do this by the understanding the beliefs that control our thoughts, harmonization of our relationships, and optimizing our physiological state to impact our emotional and mental state to accelerate our performance in every aspect of our lives. One last thing I want to leave you with that's practical information to apply is whenever you're talking to another person and you want to become more emotionally intelligent in your communication, always start with, I need to respond, not react. There's a famous saying from a book called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. That is, fools react, warriors respond. And trust me, when I'm in a moment where I feel triggered to react, I say that saying to myself, fools react, warriors respond. I'd rather be a warrior. So responding to somebody means to take a step away. Think to yourself, hurt people if you have to, if they're being mean. So you step into a place of compassion and empathy. And when you respond, know that you and the other person are going to get more of what you want versus reaction. Reaction just causes two people to distance and explode more. Responding means, how can we communicate? And I'm going to give you one last example that you can take with you. If somebody does something you don't like and you said to them, you did this to me, and how dare you do that to me, what do you think they're going to do? Oh my gosh, things are coming at me, right? They're going to withdraw, they're going to shut down, and then they're going to react right back to you. But what if you went up to that same person and said, I feel really disappointed because you forgot to do something that we agreed would be done, and maybe something happened and I could be totally overreacting. So I would love to understand what happened so we can get to a better place right now. Does that sound better? Do you think someone's going to communicate with you at that point? The key is that we want to understand one another, not be right. Another Buddhist saying for you guys to walk away with is, would you rather be right or happy? Some people are like, well, I am happy when I am right. That's not emotionally intelligent. Happiness is the answer. And being right doesn't mean that you have to, that being right doesn't make one person happy. Sometimes being right ruins a relationship and makes both people really unhappy. The key to all relationships is to get to a place of understanding. I want to understand your perspective, and I will share with you my perspective. Because most of what we assume about another person is incorrect. We make all these assumptions of why somebody did something or how they did it or how they said it some way, and we assume that they're attacking us or they're wronging us. But the truth is, that's not the truth. There is no truth, only your perception. Always remember that. There is no truth, only your perception. And your perception is not the truth. It's just your perception. I thank you all very much for being here today. And we are going to have an amazing panel where we're going to talk about emotional intelligence a little bit more applied to life. We're going to have about a very quick 5-minute break if anyone has to run to the ladies' room or men's room. Or just grab something to drink real quickly. We'll see you back here in 5 minutes. Thank you.